Imagine you're standing on a street in Baghdad at 2 in the morning. The city is quiet, that kind of heavy, late-night quiet where you can hear your own heartbeat. And then, from somewhere you can't quite pinpoint, comes a sound. A low, buzzing hum. Multiple buzzing hums. Growing louder. Coming from different directions simultaneously. And then the sky lights up. Explosions overhead. Anti-aircraft fire crisscrossing above the rooftops. Smoke rising from the direction of the Green Zone, the most heavily fortified square mile in Iraq, home to the U.S. Embassy, diplomatic missions, military coordination centers, protected by walls and watchtowers, and some of the most sophisticated air defense equipment money can buy. Witnesses grabbed their phones. They filmed. And what those videos show is not a failed attack. What those videos show is a new kind of warfare. Cheap, scalable, terrifyingly effective, arriving in real time at the doorstep of the most powerful country in the world. Last night in Baghdad, Iran-backed groups launched a drone swarm at the U.S. Embassy compound in the Green Zone. And the world just got a very clear preview of what every future conflict is going to look like. Stay with me, because this story is not really about Baghdad. It's about what happens when drone technology escapes the lab, escapes the military, and starts flying toward embassies, airports, and power plants everywhere on the planet. Let's reconstruct what happened on the night of March 17, 2026, in Baghdad. The attack began in the early hours. Multiple drones, part of what's now being described as a coordinated swarm. The explosions that witnesses filmed overhead were not Iranian attacks landing. They were interceptions. Defense systems firing upward, detonating drones before they reached their targets. But you cannot intercept everything in a multi-vector swarm. Smoke and fire were observed rising from within the Green Zone perimeter. Reports indicate that fires broke out in areas adjacent to the U.S. Embassy compound. Cell phone footage, taken by Iraqis in nearby neighborhoods who filmed through their windows, showed orange glows against the night sky, multiple simultaneous detonation points overhead, and the unmistakable silhouettes of burning structures in the distance. U.S. officials initially reported that no personnel were injured at the embassy itself. A separate strike in the same time frame killed 4 people at a house in the Baghdad area. Iraq's Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani condemned the attacks. And here is where the geopolitical complexity of Iraq's position becomes painfully apparent. The Iraqi government does not want this war on its soil. But when Iran-backed militia groups launch drone attacks from Iraqi territory against American targets, the Iraqi government's neutrality becomes more fiction than fact. This is the part of the story that goes beyond tonight's news cycle. This is about a technology shift that has permanently altered the nature of warfare. Drones, specifically the kind of commercially available, modified unmanned aerial vehicles that Iran-backed groups have been deploying, have fundamentally broken the cost equation of warfare. Here is the traditional math. A Patriot missile battery costs hundreds of millions of dollars. The missiles it fires cost anywhere from $1 to $4 million each. Now here is the new math. A modified commercial drone can be built or acquired for somewhere between $1,000 and $20,000. In a swarm of 45 drones, like the number intercepted over the UAE in a single night, the total cost to the attacker might be $1 to $2 million. The cost to the defender, firing air defense missiles at each one, potentially $40 to $180 million. For a single night's engagement, that is an asymmetry that no air defense budget can sustain indefinitely. And in Baghdad, the strategic logic extends beyond economics. By targeting the Green Zone, specifically the U.S. Embassy, Iran-backed groups are sending a message that American diplomatic presence in the Middle East is not safe. Not behind walls. Not inside fortified perimeters. Not with all the air defense money in the world. If you can be reached by a $50,000 drone, you are not safe. What's happening in Baghdad cannot be separated from what's happening in Tel Aviv, or what's happening in the UAE skies, or what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. All of it is part of a single coordinated strategy. Iran has spent decades building what strategists call a ring of fire, a network of proxy groups, each positioned in a different country, each with its own weapons stockpile and targets. That strategy is now operational. In real time. Simultaneously. In Lebanon, Hezbollah is firing rockets and missiles at northern Israel. In Iraq, Iran-backed militia groups are launching drone swarms at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. In Yemen, the Houthis have been firing at shipping in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. In Syria, Iranian-backed forces are harassing U.S. positions. In Gaza, the Baghdad drone attack has accelerated an arms race that was already underway before this war began. Germany has announced accelerated procurement of counter-drone technology for high-security government installations, citing the Baghdad attack specifically in its public statement. The United Kingdom is reviewing its embassy security protocols globally. Israel has been developing what it calls Iron Beam, a directed energy laser system designed to shoot down drones at a cost of a few dollars per engagement, compared to millions for traditional missile interception. The United States is accelerating development of several counter-drone platforms. But defense procurement moves slowly, and the drone swarms are happening now. The most concerning near-term reality: there is currently no widely deployed system that can reliably defeat a 45 drone swarm at low altitude across a wide area. The technology exists in prototype. It is not in the field at the scale needed. Here's the dimension of the drone story that nobody is talking about clearly enough. The technology being demonstrated in Baghdad and over the UAE is not proprietary military hardware. It is adapted civilian technology. The drones being used, many of them, are based on commercially available drone platforms. The navigation software, the camera systems, the basic airframe designs, all of it exists in the civilian market. It can be purchased, it can be modified, it can be mass-produced. This means that the barrier to entry for drone warfare has collapsed, not just for nation-states, not just for proxy militia groups backed by governments. The barrier has collapsed to a level where sophisticated non-state actors now have access to technology that, 5 years ago, only advanced militaries could deploy. European governments are not just watching Baghdad because they're concerned about Iraq. They're watching Baghdad because they're asking themselves, how long before this model shows up at a stadium, a power plant, an airport, a government building in Western Europe or elsewhere? And the answer from security experts is not reassuring. The age of drone warfare is not approaching. It is here, and the governance frameworks, the defense systems, and the international laws that govern it are all significantly behind where the technology already is. The green zone in Baghdad burned last night. The most fortified civilian zone in Iraq lit up with drone explosions. American diplomats sheltered in place. Iraqi civilians filmed from their windows. And somewhere in a facility in a country I won't name, engineers are already building the next version of the drone that was used. Cheaper, faster, more precise, harder to intercept. This is the future of conflict. Not just in the Middle East. Everywhere. And the thing about the future is, it doesn't wait for you to be ready for it. Stay informed. Understand the technology. Demand that your governments build the defensive systems, the international agreements, and the legal frameworks to match what's already in the field. Because the drone that flew over Baghdad last night was not a prototype. It was a message. And the message is, nowhere is safe unless we build the systems and the agreements